There we go. So I've been looking into this thing for some time in regards to the hospital and all that. First and foremost, no hospital was leveled. The hospital wasn't hurt. It is still standing. Second, the explosion happened in the car lot. Around, well, it depends in regards to the 9 cars, 11 cars, around 9 or 11 cars was burned. You have 9 cars in the, if you count all the cars that is seemingly fully burned, you have around 11 cars in total. Um, so the images you see are usually cars that are burning or cars that has been just, made into, you know, black, whatever, the aftermath of the burning. Um, So how over 500 people can have been hurt, can have been killed in this is kind of interesting how they got that number. It seems to be propaganda. Um, Actually, I found a source that says that 500 was killed and 600 people was hurt. I've seen a source that said 800 people were killed. Um, I've of course seen sources that says that the hospital was exploded and people believe that the hospital was hit and all that, which is not true. Um, it was a car park, a car lot, where there's some cars. And I don't know how you squeeze 500 people into that place and all that, but apparently that's what they tell us, right? From the Hamas or from the Philistinian sources. I don't know why anyone would believe that bullshit. And apparently, a lot of the Arab nations, or so called Arab nations, is a wrong term, I think. The Mohammedan nations, how the Mohammedan nations can believe this bullshit, like it's just absolutely garbage. I've seen some new lies coming forward that some sources, what we call Al Jazeera or whatever they are called, they say that the missile was intercepted by the Iron Dome. Like, you gotta be kidding me. So the missile was just, they show the missiles are being sent from Gaza. By the way, why no one questioning why are these people sending rockets nearby a hospital? Oh, yeah. Well, maybe because that's, the way they do it, right? Yeah. Anyway, so these rockets are coming not far from the hospital and they're sending up, and you can see the missiles coming forward and all that. And one of them explodes. There's an explosion occurring in the air. Now it's just incredible. Now, instead of just, okay, it might be a malfunction or malfunction, it might have something that happened to the missile, right? Because that's nothing new that rockets from Gaza tend to malfunction, and then they, you know, yeah, then they don't get into the Israeli area. They just stay in Gaza and make whatever havoc and all that. It's nothing new, and it's not a like a new it's not a new thing at all that this is sometimes happening. Anyway, so this Al Jazeera is saying that just after the rocket launch, right? You see the rockets, they're just shooting the rocket launch. So just after the rocket launch, they want us to believe that the Iron Dome was intercepting this rocket and exploded. And I'll give me a break. Because it's continual bullshit. Anyway, this was a rocket that malfunctioned and then exploded at the outside the hospital. Okay, it didn't explode into the hospital or the building or anything like that. It exploded outside the hospital. Now, one of the sources that I've seen says that there was people out there, and I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't seen any pictures of people out there in the car lot. Now, it wouldn't be what do you call it? What do you call it? Preposterous. It wouldn't be, you could think that, if the hospital was over, full and all that, that people might be out there and all that. I really don't know, but I haven't seen any pictures that I can see some burning cars, And while they're showing these burning cars, they're talking about all the bodies, right? Some of the sources, right? And I'm like looking into it, and I can't see a single body. The quality is just so. How are you going to see anyone? I can't see anyone. And it's like if 500 people were killed, it's like there should be some people right around. If 500 people were killed at that very spot, because we know where the explosion happened, outside the hospital, in the car lot, not in the hospital itself. The hospital building is still standing. All the buildings are still standing. It's just around 11 cars that was burned up. We have the images of the cars and all that. There's a good amount of, video and pictures and everything that the IDF told in regards of the pictures and this and that line up with what I've seen. So, it's just incredible that people will jump on every single bullshit, and now they're trying to bullshit further around. They the Phagistinians should be held account in regards of lying and deceiving about these things. It's disgusting. Of course, we've seen it before because Mohammedans, they lie, they deceive, they're bullshitters. Like when they say that there's no evidence for Jews on the Israeli soil, which they call, Palestine, the Mohammedans call Palestine, which is another lie, by the way, in regards to Palestine, Phagistinians. But when they say, well, there's no proof that the Jews have ever been on this place and all that, you gotta be kidding me. They're digging things up every single day. They're just full of bullshit. That's pretty much what it is. And if they want to take things in a historical content, when they're talked about, when they're asked about, well, in regards to the, 7th of Saturday, which was a Sabbath, and the Jews tend to turn off their things so they wouldn't know in regards to this attack. It's absolute disgusting to attack them on the day of rest. It's something that the Greeks as well did to kill the Jews. And the Jews ended up figuring out, in regards to the books of the Maccabees, the Jews ended up, because the Greeks were killing them every single Sabbath. Well, in regards, they were attacking them on the Sabbath on purpose because the Jews wouldn't resist, so they could just kill them off. But at some point, the Jews figured out, well, if they're going to kill us, we're going to defend. If they're going to attack us on the Sabbath, we are going to defend ourselves. Okay. If I recall correctly, they wouldn't attack on the Sabbath themselves, but if they were attacked on the Sabbath, they felt, okay, we will have to defend ourselves at that point. But anyway, if they want to take it, if the Phagistinians, which are pretty much Egyptians and Saudi Arabians, Arabs, whatever you want to. Anyway, I don't understand this when they talk about the Arab nations. I'm like, it's the Mohammedan nations, because a lot of these nations, like Iran, they're not really Arabians, right? They're Persians, right? I guess there could have come a lot of Arab blood with all the conquering and all the conquest and all that they did, because Mohammedanism is a religion of fear and war and utter diabolical evil. But anyway, if the Phagistinians want to take it in a historical concept, there's a book with a collection of books, which which is about Israel. All of this, or most of these things that is happening is in regards of Israel, Jerusalem. Where was Jesus executed? Oh, in Jerusalem. Hmm. Around 2,000 years ago, right? Yeah. You get so tired of the bullshit. But anyway, if they want to take it in a historical context, there's a book for that. There's a book for that, which also says that the Jews would come back. Oh yeah, this right here, right here. Just anyway, they only had 2,000 years to read it, right? Or I guess less than, because the Phagistinians, of course, is a new phenomenon, pretty much. So I guess you. But anyway, although Mohammedans overall has had 400, oh sorry, 400, 1,400 years of, but of course they rather want to run with the devil. Anyway, here we have one of these what do you call it, responses to one of the videos, which is, as far as I recall, pretty good. Let's see here. It's hard to remember Everything, let's have some line breaking here. Here are the facts you can check. The Minister of Health in Gaza announced 500 dead at the hospital when it was daylight. You can clearly see the impact was small and hit the parking lot next to the hospital. That's, while they're saying that, oh, the hospital was leveled to the ground and you have 50 doctors dead and 450 other people dead, plus, it's, where are those people, and why is the building still standing? And while they're saying this, right, they're showing a parking lot with cars burning or burned out, 9 to 11 cars burned or burned out, okay? Like, you gotta be kidding. I'm sorry, my brain is but I'm trying, trying the best that I can here. Anyway, um, so there was no building, absolutely no building that was destroyed. Like, that should just be a first in regards of what, no building was destroyed. I've seen people was like, they're trying to calculate in regards of when the missile is exploding, and then in regards of the missile exploding on the earth, so you have an explosion up in the air, and then you have an explosion down at the hospital, right? On the ground, well, next to the hospital. Okay, sorry, my bad. Next to the hospital, but these people are like, okay, so they begin to count in regards to the hospital. Maybe it's 30 meters and all that. No. It didn't hit the hospital. Give me a break with the bullshit. So all this propaganda is making people make a huge amount of false conclusions. And it just goes on with all the bullshit. Okay, it's not hard to realize that it was a it was a malfunctioned missile shot from Gaza. It's nothing unusual that it happens, okay? And after it exploded, the remnant of that hit the next to the hospital, and boom, and you have 11 cars burning, okay? Now, if there was people in that area, they could have been hurt for sure, right? But I haven't seen any pictures of people in that area, okay? I've seen like where they have like an ambulance or other things coming from the outside, and it's like, well, wasn't the explosion like inside, the car lot, and whatever. Of course, there's people getting hurt, but pictures of people getting hurt is nothing new in the time that they're getting, in regards to what is happening these days, right? But where's the pictures of those 500 people dead, or people laying? I haven't seen a single image where people are laying at that place, where the explosion happened, Wouldn't you think that there would be some images or some videos or something like that of people, being at, actually, some of the images taken before the explosion, you don't see any people in the car lot as far as I can see. You see the cars, where the top down views of this, you see cars in the car park, right? But you don't see any people, laying there, if the hospital was overfilled and all that, you could maybe have, maybe there was a lot of people out there, and gathering around or what, no, displaced people or whatever you want to, but I don't see anyone on those pictures. But hey, anyway, there's cars. You can see the cars, but it's not like it seems like there's a lot of people in the images. I would think that you would be able to see if there was people, at that place. Anyway, so as far as I can see, Hamas or the Philistinians use this as propaganda. You know, and they just fix the numbers to 500, and or over 550 doctors dead, and and whatnot. Anyway, let's read further here in regards of. So here are the facts you can check. Someone writes, right? This is 22nd century news, right? The Minister of Health in Gaza announced 500 dead at the hospital when it was daylight. You can clearly see the impact was small and hit the parking lot next to the hospital. Next to the hospital. Do you understand that? Next to the hospital. It wasn't the building. It was at the car lot. Parking place. Okay. So this is very, very important, because when the bullshitters are telling you that the Israelis, what do you call it, wasted the whole building, the building was just bang, they leveled the hospital totally to the ground, right? When those bullshitters are telling you that, they're full of bullshit, and it's so stinking clear. Anyway, it's just smelly, smelly, smelly. Now they try to push all other kind of garbage. It's typical the devil to do, to try to mislead you and all that. That's just how it is. Anyway, so this source says, so no 500 dead. That's a lie, right? It says it's a lie. So it's a lie that 500 dead people, and that is confirmed by multiple countries. And he says, even if you group 500 people together where it hit, it wouldn't even kill half of them, or half of that. Um, uh, and again, I don't even know how you can actually put 500 people in that area. But anyway, and like they said in the video, the missile shows some explosion, could be the body of the missile, and then 5 seconds later it happens just below, could be the head or part of the missile that landed from quite high, and it took it 5 seconds. So you have an explosion up here, something goes wrong with the missile, something falls down, explodes on the ground. Oh wow, and there you go. If Israel wanted to, you know, if Israel really wanted to destroy a hospital, it would not stand there. Okay, it would be obliterated. It would be gone. So I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Anyone believing this bullshit is just full of bullshit. We have the interception of the call. I think that was actually another call as well, but I'm not entirely sure. At least one call. We also have this wonderful picture that I fixed on my Gap profile. And if you want to search on my Gap profile, I think you can search on Darkijah, and you should be able to find it. Or Jesus, God, and an underline, because I can't make a dividing line in here. But I think if you search on Darkijah, you should be able to find me. Well, I guess that's two accounts. I think I made I think I ended up making another account that's just a false account. But the one with the image, is the. I should go in and delete the other one if I can figure that out. But anyway, so we have this wonderful image. I'll just see if we can fix that. Oh, wait. I can just go on the phone, by the way. Let's just take it on the phone, actually. Why not just take it on the phone? So this is the best image I've found of yet in regard to the episode. And now here we have why Arab nations are refusing gas of refugees, because they're full of bullshit, and they want the conflict. It's very evil. It's a satanic agenda against Israel. Um, but that's just how it is. It's showing the rotten fruit. They know the solution, but they don't want to commit to a solution. So they're part of it. They're the reason why, actually. But anyway, let's see here. It's absolutely disgusting how they. Okay, let's see here. Gap. And they said that it's a red line for them to have people moving into the places. Anyway, let's see here. See if we can find. There we go. Let's see if we can find the image. Oh, here we have in regards of totally outrageous, dangerous, and utter stinking bullshit. If people believe this, they are utter retarded and full of demons. More than 500 people were killed and 600 others injured in an Israeli direct attack on Al-Ali Arab National Hospital in Gaza, Palestinian Health Ministry said on Tuesday evening. This is bullshit. There was no direct hit. The buildings are still standing. But anyway, let's see if we can find the images here. This is the best image I've seen of the event. Can you, let's see. Okay, I want to turn around here. We'll just need to turn around here. Um, so yeah, there we go. So not the fastest. So here is the best. I don't know if we can maybe no. This is the apparently. So you have the area. I don't know. You have the area of It looks like the missile hits around here. Here is the middle car when you see the burning. Then you have one, two, three, four cars there. Five, six, seven, eight, nine, and it looks like a 10. And we have some further cars, but around 9 to 11 cars are burned out. I wouldn't count it, but it just has a little burning over here, right? But that's all. You see glass here and glass here and glass here. There's still glass in these cars over here, and so this is the blast. This is the blast. This is the blast zone, and it seems like it's in the middle, where it probably was hit, and then you see the cars burning. So this is the blast. If you turn the thing around in regards to the buildings that is around here, back behind it, none of the buildings has exploded or anything like that. And they say that 500 people in this, the people that has to be standing here, those 500 people, and these 600 people that's been hurt and all that has to be standing right here in this area, right? Because that's where the blast is. Not a single building was exploded. And while they're saying that the hospital was leveled to the ground, they're showing images of this area. That's all. That's all. They're just showing these cars to be burning. Now this car and this car is very iconic. So when you see the things from above, it can be a little hard to see if there's two cars or three cars. But when you know and see the other data points, you can see there's one, two, three cars. These are three cars over there. So you have this square car over here, and then you have like with this tip thing over there. So we have three cars in overall. You begin to, the more you investigate it, the more things you can pretty much. You have some images of these close and all that. But the more images and data points you get, the easier it begins to, sort out things and all that. But in regards to the IDF, in regards to them checking things and all that, that's exactly what I can confirm myself. So in regards to the images that you see both sides, you see the side of Hamas and the opposition talking that it was Israel and all that, but the images that they're showing is this bullshit. It's just this is the bullshit they're showing. Okay. This is the boat that they're not showing any building being blown up. And some of the pictures where you see them in where you see the buildings, that you have some of the tiles on the top of the buildings, but tiles can be easily blown away, and they be disturbed. If you have a storm and all that, sometimes the tiles from the roof, roof tiles, they tend to move or fall down or something like that because they're pretty loose. And that's the only thing you pretty much can see on the buildings that have been hurt. The buildings are still standing, the walls are still standing. They don't even look like they have been affected. It's pretty much the roof tiles that is that where you can see a little on two of the buildings. So yeah, the IDF seems to be pretty credible in regards to their information on things, and also so like 500 people killed and 600 wounded. Where are the pictures? Where are the pictures of all the bodies laying out at the places where the cars are? Where are the pictures when the cars are burning? In regards to all the people, they'd say, "Oh, you can see all these people and all that." And I'm looking at the images, and I can't see a single person. I can see something burning, which when you begin to see the after pictures and all that, you can like get an idea. Okay, this is the middle car, and these are the cars to the side and this side and all that. But you can't see any bodies on the images. So. And you would expect, I think you would expect if there was like 500 people killed at that very area, that you would see a lot of people. Anyway, if anyone have some images I haven't seen, just put them up. You can go into my Gap profile, Darkijah, and just put the images up. If you are inside Gap. But yeah, that's I've investigated this for a good amount of hours, and the conclusion is, and further, now that they have other issues, they're just trying other bullshit things, as the devil does, as usual, to try to muddy the waters of the facts, So what is the facts? The facts is that it was a misfire. What do you call it? Misfire. It was a missile that malfunctioned in the air, and then hit in the car lot and exploded. An explosion came around. Not, there was no building, no hospital exploding and leveled or anything like that. And again, I do wonder in regards to those 500 plus people. Some sources says 800 people killed. Some says like 500 people killed and 600 injured and all that. As far as I can see, it's just propaganda to blame Israel for all things. That's the only thing I can see. So yeah, show me a building having been leveled by this. There's no building having been leveled. It's absolutely just bullshit. And so yeah, Phagistinian bullshit. That's pretty much what it is. That's yeah. So do we have anything else? We can see some videos. I've seen the IDF have at least three different people out there. This is Lerner or something like that, Lerner. And then we have another guy and another guy. We have at least three IDF people I've seen talking to people, news, and all that in regards of things. And in the beginning, one of them actually talked about, well, we don't know, if it was us, he says, it was a misfire. So, but he couldn't say either or not, because in regards to this at the beginning, it's because they didn't have the information at the point and all that. So he was pretty honest that saying, well, I don't, well, we're investigating the things in regards to if it was us or what happened, or if it was us, it wasn't it was a misfire, but we're still checking into it and all that. I think that's a pretty honest way to go about it, and actually, look into it. Okay, what happened? What is going on? And they find out in regards to a misfire. If they wanted to, and again, all the lies that the hospital was leveled or the hospital was hit or anything like that, the hospital was not hit. It was not, the building itself was not hit. So it was outside, in regards to the car lot. So yeah, well, anyway, let's see what this guy says. It says war. I haven't seen this, so war is Israel killed Hamas-led National Security Forces leader and family in an airstrike. Let's see what this is about. I don't know what it is really. This is how many hours? 15 hours ago. Let's see.
Perhaps congratulations are in order. You've taken out a very dangerous man.
We are taking them off one by one, Kevin. I mean, this is the goal of our operation, is to dismantle all of Hamas, from Yahya Sinwar, the Prime Minister, the mastermind behind the massacre of October 7th, all the way down to the last operator that infiltrated into our communities, butchered and murdered and abducted Israelis. So I would say it's not an issue of congratulations, but it's an issue of we are determined to restore safety and security to our people, and the people that perpetrate this atrocity against us are going to pay.
And I assume this is some sort of triumph for your intelligence services that you knew where this guy was. Have you got a handle on where the other key players in Hamas might be within Gaza?
Kevin, you don't expect me really to reveal what we know or what we don't know, but I would say every Hamas terrorist needs to know they are in our sights. They need to know that we are going to take justice for the 1,300 people that they butchered, murdered, massacred, raped, and burnt, and the 203 people that are now being held hostage, men, women, children, elderly, Holocaust survivors. We are going to exert a force that they have never, ever endured in the history of their existence, and we intend on removing them from the face of existence.
And this is another question that I don't expect an answer to, but I'm going to ask you anyway. President Biden, we learn on the front page of the Times this morning, has backed a full-scale Israeli offensive, the one that Benjamin Netanyahu has been talking about, by land, sea, and air. Now, obviously, you're taking out these Hamas leaders, or you took this one out without the full-scale invasion, but you're going after all of Hamas. I have to ask you, we're assuming there will be a full-scale invasion soon. Are we right to assume that?
Well, we are preparing ourselves for that eventuality. The ground forces are preparing, including tasking them with specific missions to destroy Hamas. So each unit will have its own task, specific locations, specific people that they will be hunting down, specific capabilities we will be negating from the terrorist organization Hamas. And that is, and we're obviously equipping them, making sure that they are well aware of their each and individual tasks, but also the ability to train and be prepared for whatever is at hand. Our ground operation will be in a time and manner when we see fit and in accordance to our overreaching goals to destroy Hamas. Not a minute before, and I would say not a minute after. It needs to be orchestrated extremely well. It's a huge amount of force that we've recruited, some 300,000 reservists, which is it's the largest.
Yeah, actually, I had a Jewish source. A professor at a university. I think he said they had over 500 soldiers in work now after all the reserves was called in and all that. And he said there was like huge amount of soldiers now. That was from this show. I can't remember. There's a Jewish show and all that. And yeah. It's just interesting to hear the Jewish side of things, from their original sources instead of just getting it from outside sources and all that. You get the feeling that the Jews are very angry at the moment. A lot of the Jews are very, very angry at what happened on the seventh Roman, day. It's interesting. Like seventh, right? Saturday 7, yeah, I guess it was, I can't remember in regards of totally, but anyway, on the Sabbath at least, right? So, that was in the daylight, right? So that must be Saturday morning on the 7th. Anyway, but yeah, so they have a huge amount of people. They also moved a lot of people as well on the north. They have fled their homes. So they're not in their homes either. So you have a lot of dislocated people as well that is not at the places where they usually would be. So when people are talking about that there's people having moved in regards to Gaza, you have the same also in Israel. You have people that has been moved away from their homes because of the conflict.
Amount of reservists we've ever recruited in the history of the state of Israel. And that goes to show how serious we are at changing the paradigm. So Hamas, it's not just a terrorist organization. It's a government that is a state-like government of terrorism.
Yeah.
They have subordinated the entire...
Yeah, I would agree. And the thing is that Hamas believes that the Jews are occupiers. And that's the wording. You really have to listen what they say, because they might not be totally upfront in regards to saying what they, but it slips out anyway when they talk. When they say that the Jews are occupiers and all that, they mean that the Jews in Israel are occupiers, that they are occupying the Philistines' land, okay? Which they are not. They should read the Bible and figure out who actually owns the land, okay? But anyway, it's like, I remember in the Truth Movement, the so-called Truth Movement, also are against the Jews. And this is one of the ingrained things in the Truth Movement, is to be against the Jews. And of course, the Truth Movement is mixed with the new age garbage. When you get into the truth movement, Satan is ready to lead you further astray. Even if you get some truth in regards of this depravity of this world, then you're led into Satanism and hatred of the Jews as well, and misinformation, a lot of Phagistinian garbage and all that.
Entire system for terrorist activities, from the prime minister at the top through the finance minister, who we've also taken out, through the operatives. It is all to serve terrorism. There have been over the past few days quite a few stories where international media are quoting Hamas as fact, and they don't understand that it's like quoting North Korea. You wouldn't trust them for whatever they would say. So why do we trust Hamas? We mustn't trust anything that they are saying, anything they are doing. Everything is in accordance to their psychological terrorism, their global terrorism, and their act against terrorism against the people of Israel.
Yeah, so that was this one of the guys of the IDF spokesman. There's two others I've seen. I can see the other one, but this is 5 days ago. It doesn't say what his name is. And there's another guy. So at least there's 3 guys at the IDF spokesman. Here we have the third one. Of course, you can't see him. But yeah, so that's 9 hours ago. Maybe you should just look at that if that's 9
I
hours
would like
ago.
to speak to the Jewish people, Am Israel, here in Israel and around the world.
Am Israel means the people of Israel. So anyway,
this is a difficult time for us all. Hamas terrorists massacred
this is the
our people
guy,
in the most brutal and barbaric way. Israelis were slaughtered in their homes. Families were taken hostage. And around the world,
there we go. That's the second guy. Oh, I didn't really show the first guy, did I? I can't. Probably didn't. But that's the second guy, the spokesman.
Is now surging.
Well, they really shouldn't call it anti-Semitism. They should actually just call it, anti-Jewish or, against the Jews. Anti-Semitism just doesn't really, because Semites, in regards to people of Shem, right? In regards to Semite.
It's a dark time for our people. But from the depths of darkness, we are rising up. We are fighting, and we will prevail. In this time of hardship, something has become clear about the Jewish people. We are one. We are united. We're in this together. Our hearts may be broken, but the unity of our people is unbreakable. The soldiers of the IDF feel your support, your love, your prayers. We know that we have a strong nation behind us here in Israel and around the world. We are determined to fulfill our mission. We are determined to defeat Hamas. Israel isn't just a home for Israelis. It's home for all Jews. It's home that we fought for, a home we'll keep on fighting for. This is a defining moment for the Jewish people. An important chapter of Jewish history is being written as we speak. The first page of this chapter was tragic. The rest of this chapter will be written by us, people of Israel, the Israel Defense Forces, and you, the Jewish people. My friends, let me tell you how this chapter ends. Israel is in a war that did not seek, and it did not start. But now, as we're here, we will fight, and we will win together. Am Israel Chai.
And Am Israel Chai means the people of Israel life, something of that nature, right? The life, live, I guess, live. The people of Israel will live, something of that nature, I guess, in regards to translating Chai. Chai means life, or I guess live in regards to that, Am Israel Chai. That the people of Israel will live, I think is the best translation into English. Anyway, with what Hebrew I know, with the little Hebrew I know. Anyway, so that was from the Israeli Defense Force YouTube. But that was one of the guys. So that's the second guy.
Peter, I would
And
suggest
the
that
first one, you can just see a picture of him. That's
perhaps congratulations are in order. You've
that's
taken
the
out a very dangerous man.
second. Oh, that was the first guy here. It's a little, yeah. I guess I don't know if I can like fix the. And they have, they have the last. Let's see if we can maybe. There we go. It's just that. So that's the second guy they have, and they have.
We are taking them off.
They have the third guy, which is, let's see here. That's the third guy. This guy. So that's
all right, Greg. Thanks so much. Of course, it looks like the first Lieutenant Colonel.
There we go. This is the other guy.
Jonathan Caracas. Colonel, thanks so much for joining us.
So that's the three guys they have, as far as I know, in regards of fixing information to the nations, the Goyams of the world. Goyam or Goy. Goy means nation in singular, and Goyam means nations. And just so you know, I know people use it for other things, but anyway, that's the Hebrew. So what happens to this? Like reopen, last closed. Okay. Close. So yeah, and I don't have anyone seeing anything. Like it's like death. No one sees my videos at all. I guess it's just I'm just in a hole that no one really no one sees the videos.
Another battle of the hearts and minds.
It's sad. Anyway, that's just how it is, I guess. So I can just sit here and talk to myself, apparently. So Al Ali Al Ma'amadin Hospital Initial IDF Aftermath Report. And so here we have the report from IDF, directly from the IDF.il in regards to Israel. So we have the spokesman in regards to the misfire and all that. And we have the details and pictures of the rockets and all that. Anyway, maybe I should just put it, Okay, direct source from IDF. There we go. Anyway, so that's the direct source. If you want to see the direct source on IDF, it's also on my Gap. The link is on my Gap as well. Then you can go look on the webpage. On idf.il, and where they have all the information directly from a source. Not a secondary source, but a first account source. And like Gaza hospital explosion sparks anger and protest in Arab countries. And again, why they call it Arab countries when they are Mohammedans, right? It's the religion of Mohammedans that want to wipe out the Israelites. So Yisrael. And so that's how it is. Israel releases images it claims prove IDF not responsible for Gaza hospital blast. Yeah, we don't see any pictures as such on this, but the Israel Defense Forces IDF have released images that they claim shows that the deadly blast at the El Ali Baptist Hospital in Gaza could not have been the result of an Israeli airstrike. Gaza officials have blamed Israel for the blast, which the Palestinian or the Palestinian Ministry of Health says killed hundreds of civilians, but the IDF rejected the allegation, claiming the blast was caused by a faulty rocket launched by Palestinian Islamic Jihad militants. CNN cannot independently confirm what caused the explosion. CNN's Jeremiah Diamond reports. I think it's pretty clear, it was a misfire, or I guess you can't even call it a misfire. It was a missile that malfunctioned, and I guess you can call that a misfire. Let's see, misfire, but it didn't really. Yeah, I guess it misfire. Let's see here. What is it? Meaning, right? Let's see here. Meaning. Let's see the whole misfire. Yeah, okay. of a gun or missile failed to discharge or fire probably. Yeah, so it was a misfire. Yeah. Yeah, especially okay, a plan can also be failed to produce the intended result. Yeah. Okay, so it was a misfire of from inside Gaza. Those, so however many was killed, they can't blame Israel for it. Okay. But again, I think the numbers are just absolutely totally ridiculous in regards to 500 people, because in regards to the explosion, and it's not a hospital either. So anyone saying that it's a hospital being exploded and all that and leveled to the ground is full of bullshit. Of course, that would actually be the thing. Like when you're thinking about like 500 people died, you might think of a whole hospital building just leveled to the ground, right? But that didn't happen. There's no building that has, you know, there's no building. There's no images of a building. Okay? There's just nothing, because it's a lie. It's a stinking lie of propaganda, and it worked. It worked as it intended. So now all the Mohammedan nations are on fire for wanting to, it stirred up a huge amount of hatred against Israel when it wasn't even Israel. So the propaganda worked. Anyway, we have let's see here. This is 7 hours ago. Breaking: U.S. forces attacked in Iraq, Syria, and Red Sea. Unbiased Israel Hamas update. So again, the hatred just boils over because of this, which Hamas is, and these people these reporters should have checked the sources. They should have checked the things before they reported the bullshit, but they didn't. They just ran with the bullshit. One of the IDF's people actually talked to, I think it was Fox News or something like that, and actually said that Fox News was actually one of those that actually were the most honest about what was going on. I think he was, because he was talking to someone else, and this reporter was just absolutely outrageous. Here we have it's a Hebrew source. I really would have been nice to know in regards to Hebrew. If I could have known Hebrew. Anyway, let's see here. Someone says there are impacts from fragmentation. Also, this explosion wasn't a big one, but however enough to cause several other explosions and fires. Let's see how else would let's see here. Just you don't see the whole message. It's just typical nonsense of all these disgusting platforms, how it just doesn't work as it should and all that. Let's see here. Yeah, and you need to push around. Also, this explosion wasn't one, but however enough to cause several other explosions and fires. How else could Israel be able to cover up if they used that extremely powerful one? Are you kidding me? Also, some ammunition can explode in a way without causing much fractional damage, but rather to give me a break with the bullshit. Yeah. The most obvious thing in regards to this, and yeah, it's just they're just running away from, and they try to blame other things and this and that and blah blah blah. Okay, let's see here. It was like Fox News on hospital explosion. Let's see here if we can find anything. Israel not responsible for hospital blast, U.S. intelligence says. That's like 20 minutes. This is one day. Breaking Gaza hospital strike evidence released. Islamic Jihad behind strike. Live from Fox. Let's see here what it says.
As we get back to that latest on that missile strike that is believed to have hit a hospital, Israeli forces are saying...
Again, it didn't hit the hospital, okay? It hit the car lot of the, of the place, right? Next to the hospital. Or you could say, if it was part of the hospital, but it wasn't the hospital building itself, right? If someone said, a missile hit the house, right? They would expect that it hit the house, right? If someone says it hit the hospital, they would, imagine that the missile hit the hospital, right? The building itself. Like, or the missile hit the police station. You don't think that the missile hit out in the car park, right? Because if they should have said the missile hit next to the hospital. It just
They are not responsible.
or
They're
in the car park and all that.
a terrorist group for being responsible for that explosion. They say they have evidence that members of Islamic Jihad were in fact responsible. Let's listen in to those comments.
The IDF has concluded an after-action review and confirmed that the Islamic Jihad was responsible for the strike.
And again, in the beginning, the IDF went out, one of the other guys, and he said, "Well, we don't know what was, yet, regard. If it was us, it wasn't purposely done, But he said we're investigating it. Okay, that was a pretty, honest, come out and we don't know what happened yet. We are investigating it. If it was us, it wasn't purposely done and all that. And then they investigated and figured out and when you look at the research, first and foremost, the hospital building was not hit. Okay, that's the first lie. That's the bullshit of where people, the hospital was destroyed, the hospital was leveled, over 500 people died and all that. And it's like, give me a break.
At the Al-Hali Al-Ma'dani Hospital in Gaza. We did an immediate review with all relevant branches of the IDF.
Yep.
This is what took place on Tuesday, October 17th. At 6:15 p.m., a barrage of rockets was fired by Hamas to Israel. Then, at 6:59 p.m., a barrage of around 10 rockets was fired by Islamic Jihad from a nearby cemetery.
Yeah, no one is asking the question, why are these Philistinians firing rockets so near to a hospital? Because that's the way they do it, okay?
It was at the time that 6:59 p.m. when there were reports of an explosion at the Al-Hali Al-Mahadani Hospital in Gaza City. According to our intelligence, Hamas checked the reports, understood it was an Islamic Jihad rocket that had misfired, and decided to launch a global media campaign to hide what really happened.
Yeah.
They went as far as inflating the numbers of casualties.
Yeah, I've agreed to that, in regards of like 500, over 500, and even hearing about 800 or 500 dead and 600 hurt, it's just, give me a break, in regards to this little, and where's the images of it? Where's the pictures? You see some burning cars and all that. You see some burning cars and then you accept the story of Hamas. You gotta be kidding me. And there's a huge amount of these news channels just went absolutely bullshit on this.
They understood with absolute certainty that it was a rocket misfired by Islamic Jihad that damaged the hospital. Analysis of our aerial footage confirms that there was no direct hit to the hospital itself.
Yeah, no direct hit to the hospital itself. Yeah. You see any images that can disprove that? No, because the thing it exploded out in the car park, okay? Whether it is hostile sources or non-hostile sources in regards to this information, you just see the images of burning cars or burned out cars, okay? That's something in regards to the,
The only location damage is outside the hospital in the parking lot, where we can see signs of burning, which I will show later, no cratering, and no structural damage to nearby buildings, as opposed to the damage caused.
The only structural damage that you can really see is some of those tiles, some of those building tiles on two of the buildings, and they also show that as well in the information. So that's the buildings are fine themselves. So it's like, so where, and in regards to where though all those 500 people dead, um, one source talks about these 500 people being dead inside the hospital, right? But it didn't really hit the hospital. Then you have a source talking about, well, these people was outside, in regards of, and it's like, yeah, but where are the images of that, And 500 people, kind of doesn't really, I guess the propaganda went that, well, they hit the hospital and it exploded and 500 people died and all that. That's, again, it's bullshit. It's absolutely rubbish. How would you ever trust these people? I can't believe that people would trust these bullshitters.
By any aerial munition.
And listening to these Hamas bullshitters as well in regards to these so-called authorities and all that, which are pushing this, absolutely disgusting, that they are certain that it was Israel. They are so certain, and give me a break with the bullshit. The bullshitters, they're liars. They're stinking liars.
Which would have been of different nature. We would have
like
seen,
if Israel could, would have targeted the hospital, would just be been boom, like it's like this little thing in the car park and all that, right? 11 cars burning and all that. Give me a break. You have a misfire. You see the rockets. We have the pictures of the rocket, having a minor explosion in the air, right? And then all of a sudden you see the explosion on the, 5 seconds later or something like that. You see the explosion on in the hospital. It's like in the car lot, Like, so you have a misfiring, something went wrong in regards to, then it falls down and then explodes, So, and then we just give Israel the fault for that. Or push bullshit that it was intercepted by the Iron Dome. And you just give me a break with the bullshit. And even if it was intercepted by the Iron Dome, it wouldn't be the fault of Israel, wouldn't it? But the whole idea of intercepted by the Iron Dome is just outrageous, because the Iron Dome, the rocket has just been fired, The rocket has just been fired from the place where it's coming from, close to the hospital, and then boom, okay? Like, it's just give me a break.
craters and structural damage to the buildings, both of which haven't been identified in this incident. The size of the damage we see here is due to the warhead of the Islamic Jihad rocket, but most of the rockets.
And then, we see the images of burning cars, and then after they have burned out, and you can go look at them and all that. But you don't see any hospital, the buildings are fine. Look at this, the buildings are absolutely fine. That does, you have all those cars, right? And you if you go a little back, right? You have the
warhead of the Islamic Jihad rocket.
There we go. So here, this is, as far as I know, the middle car. It's a little hard to see. Can you see any bodies around this place? I can't, even when it's like a bigger screen and all that, I can't see any bodies around here. Apparently there should be around 500 bodies, right? People killed laying around here. The only thing I can see is like cars, and these are the burning cars. And after the burning cars,
but most
you see
of the rocket's propellant.
There we go. Here we see the cars that have been burned out. Buildings are fine. Buildings are fine. Just buildings are fine.
Is still evident due to the short flight.
Hamas must be absolutely ridiculous to make people believe in this bullshit. Although it worked. Most of the Mohammedan world they just needed something, an excuse to blame Israel for, and lo and behold, this was it. Now everybody is angry at Israel, and even if it's shown to be a lie, you probably can't get the Mohammedans to, then no, it's just Israeli propaganda, right? Mm-hmm. So it worked. I saw a guy, another military guy, and he talked about how the Mohammedans would do it also in Iraq. Although I'm not in support of the Iraq war and all that. I was always against the war in Iraq. But anyway, um, but he talks about how they would just get the information out while the U.S. military would go from bottom to the top and from the top to the bottom before they released information on something, Whereas, and then it could be already too late because then the propaganda, might already be running wild, and then it was too late anyway. They can, even if it wasn't true, it didn't really matter because the propaganda had already worked for those that actually promoted it. And he said, the damage has already been done, even if Israel can show that this is a lie. And it is a lie. There's no hospital building destroyed. All the bullshitters out there that has been promoting this is absolutely garbage. And even one of the guys of the IDF was talking to this she was disgusting, absolutely disgusting in regards of the interview, and yeah, it was just disgusting. How they already had they had already had this idea that it happened, right, and they were pushing the garbage. Anyway, so
of the rocket because the launch failed. The following visual evidence shows infrared images.
And we have some images of the different cars, and the more you look at these images, of course, you see the same cars, so you can figure out where you are. There's two iconic cars, like you can see the two iconic cars on this image is those over here. This has this tipping, what is it called? I'm not sure what it's called in English, but you see this car which have this this thing, and then you have this is a square car that usually is a square car. It's like so these two places are very iconic to see when you see it from different angles and this and that. And it looks around here where you have the explosion going out and all that, and here the burning cars, but you can see cars around which still has glass, and there's some other pictures where you can see further that so you have 9 to 11 cars that has been burned. 9 to 11. As far as I recall, I counted 11 cars in total that has been burned. You have an area of 9 cars, and then you have 2 more cars that has. So 11 cars, but 9 to 11 cars that has been burned. Every single building is fine. Every single,
imagery of the parking lot. You can see the central.
And here we see some more images where they're going around, and where they're going around in the did he call it, the car lot?
Shows infrared imagery of the
Parking lot. Yeah. So you see them walk around in the parking lot.
See the central locations of fires.
But all the buildings are fine. You have some. You can see in regards of besides the what is called? I can't even remember the house. The top of I can't remember what it's called. But look at here, right? This is the pretty much the damage you can see on 2 of the buildings where you have these up here. They have been moved somewhat in regards of this is.
Some debris of rooftops.
Yeah, rooftops. That's what they called. So the rooftops. On the 2 buildings you have. On 2 of the buildings, you can see that the rooftops or the roofings tiles has been somewhat disturbed. But again, if you have a storm or anything like that, roof tiles are not like fixed down or anything like that. They can easily be moved away. So they have been disturbed somewhat. But that's the extent to the destruction of anything on the buildings. So
no craters can be identified. I want to show you that.
And it shows the information. And here we see this looks like, I think it might actually be the middle car that is shown now on the. But you see to have some reporters going around, and I'm like, these reporters should be able to have 1, 2, 3. There's at least, as far as I can see, 3 reporters with this thing and a sign. I think it says reporter on these. They have these, these blue things and all that. They're walking around and filming, and yeah. So
This is the area of the hospital.
so now he's
Okay.
showing the area of the
We are
hospital.
showing the parking lot and the hospital. Okay, those are in red spot.
Yeah, and he shows the hospital is here, and here's the car lot, and it's like, it's very easy to take the lies apart, I think. Anyone believing the Hamas story is just absolutely just full of bullshit, How could you believe that bullshit,
This is not in infrared, so you can understand it betterly.
Yeah, so
This is the parking lot.
yeah, he shows the parking lot,
This is
and the hospital is down, to the,
the parking lot. You
Yeah.
can see the parking
So, and there's
lot
some
also
pictures.
now. In this
There's some pictures. I think they're also on the IDF
picture
page and all that.
shown here,
And all the IDF is showing, and the pictures I've been looking at from all the sources and all that fits what they say. You have some of those roof things, disturbed and all that, but besides that, there's not a single building that has been destroyed. The explosion was in the car lot. You have 9 or 11 cars being burned out. You have, and you have some other, but like 9 or 11 totally burned out cars, and that's it. And then you have some other, but overall, that's the extent of the. And the question is, was there any people in this place? That's the question, because if they were not in the hospital, then of course they were not. If the hospital wasn't hit, they were not killed in the hospital, right? So then they must have been killed out in the car lot, because the explosion happened at the car lot, right? But do we have any proof that there was people in the car lot? I haven't seen any images suggesting it. I haven't seen any.
okay,
So
aftermath, after the hit. There is no
Yeah.
structural damage to the building. The walls stayed intact. There are no
Yeah.
craters here.
yeah, all the buildings are standing intact. The only thing you see on the buildings is in regards of the roof, some of the roof tiles, okay? And then 9 or 11 totally burned out cars. I think it's 11 burned out cars, totally burned out cars, Besides that, nothing. Besides that, nothing. A minor explosion. I don't know how you get 500 people into that area, Even if you think about, trying to think, how could you get 500 people into that area? I don't know. And even with that, how many of them would actually be killed, Even if you fill the whole area with people, right? How many of them would actually be killed, Yeah, but anyway, just...
All of the above, which I said, no structural damage. The walls stay intact. No craters. These are the characterized that shows that it's not an aerial munition that have hit the parking lot.
Yeah, well, and again, if Israel wanted to take out the hospital would be gone, would be totally gone, kind of pretty good at hitting things, right? So, anyway,
We also have examples of what air-to-ground munition created looks like. As you can see, they do not exist in this instance. Many media outlets immediately reported
yeah,
the unverified claims by Hamas.
yeah, it's incredible. It's absolutely disgusting. Everybody just seems to be, well, a huge amount was just, hey, it's Israel, hit the hospital. But there was no hospital building, Yeah, I just...
Those were lies spread by Hamas. I want to make something clear. It is impossible to know what happened as quickly as Hamas claimed they knew.
Well, anyway, they and we see some pictures of the car park again, and again just some cars that has been burned.
That should have been an initial.
And it's just interesting because a lot of these people in the area should, you would think that you had a lot of witnesses you could, that could stand forward in regards to this bullshit. But I guess they might be killed if they actually do. So in regards to Hamas and all that. So
Initial warning sign for many.
But I guess the truth will further get out, but then it will be too late because it already done the damage that it needed to do. Now all the Mohammedan nations are very angry at Israel at this point. So
unlike Hamas, the IDF launched an immediate examination, which was overseen at the very highest levels of command. This professional review was
let's see here.
An immediate examination, which was overseen at.
I think we have one car that seems to have been tipped on its. I think this seemed to be the car has tipped over, but none of the other cars, like the middle car, that seems to be also the closest to the. I'm not sure if it looks like it has tipped over, but in any case, I don't think there's any of the other cars that actually has tipped over.
At the very highest levels of command.
I'm not entirely sure if it's tipped over or not, but it looks a little like it was closest to the explosion.
This professional review was based on intelligence, operational systems, and aerial footage, all of which we cross-checked.
Mm-hmm.
The evidence.
Yeah, again. So you see the missile exploding in the air, right? And something must have fallen down from the missile, and then boom, the head or something like that, right, from the missile. So they fire it and it explodes, and some of it still, and boom, 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 right? First boom up here, then boom down there, okay?
Which we are sharing with you all, confirms that the explosion of the Ali al-Mahadani hospital in Gaza was.
And here we see the cars again, although maybe it's not on its. Maybe none of them are on its head. I'm not. Maybe they're just standing there. All of them. It's just one of the pictures. It just seemed a little like that. It might be on its top, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it's just because it's just the one that looks the worst in regards of. Because we can see the engine here. It seems on the car. So maybe it's not rounded, or maybe none of them are really. But yeah, the rest, stands on their wheels. It's still a little hard to see if. Yeah, okay. It's probably standing on its wheels as well, but it's really in rough shape. That's for sure. It is the middle car. So the thing, as far as I can see, hit just behind, very close to that middle car, and then you see like the. Where you have the files around.
Here are the four main parts of the examination process. First, we confirmed that there was no IDF fire.
And here you see afterwards.
Process. First,
here you see after the car. Here you see some place where it looks like it actually hit in the middle. As far as it's very hard to. But yeah, and then you see the cars around it being. Burned somewhat, pretty much burned, overall. But this car is only the behind of the car that is burned. So again, if you follow the circle, in regards to the circle, in regards to damage and burning and all that, you can and just try to find the middle of it. That looks like around there. That is the middle of it. And yeah.
We confirmed that there was no IDF fire by land, sea, or air that hit the hospital.
Yeah.
Second, our radar system tracked rockets fired by terrorists from within Gaza at the time of the.
Yeah, here we go again with this car. It just looks like it's on the. It looks like it's on its top, well, it's like this should be the car that is. I don't know. It's just if this is the, if I'm, we have the angle right. It just looks like this car is on its, top, but it's hard to see where the wheels really are. Is this like a wheelbarrow here, and this is a wheel? It looks like it's on top, it's flipped around. I'm not entirely sure.
Explosion.
Maybe it's just me. I'm really hard to. It looks like it's top down, but it's so bad in shape. It's so bad in shape. But if I look at some of the other images, it's really.
IDF fire.
So you go a little more back here.
Misfired.
There we go. That would see the same, as far as I can see. That should be the same car, but it doesn't seem like it. Well, maybe it is. Yeah. I don't know. Just doesn't.
Here are the.
Nah. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. It does look like the wheels are on the level and it actually is on the top. Okay. It does look to me like it's upside down.
The four main parts of the examination.
So you have one car that is upside down as far as I can see, and the rest of the cars are just, at the same standing.
First, we confirmed.
Which maybe means that if it's upside down and there's only one that is upside down, maybe the drop would have been dropped down and banged it off from underneath and flipped it around. And if we have then it would have flipped it around from anyway, it could be. I don't know. It does seem to be the only car that is flipped around. So again, if you can imagine that the thing comes down, right, and it just explode underneath it, so it flips it around. That would be because none of the other cars is flipped around. It's only this one.
There was no IDF fire.
So you see and it would be flipped around. See how would it be flipped around? If it was standing like that, it would probably be flipped around like that. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah.
By land, sea, or air that hit the hospital.
See here.
Second, our radar system tracked rockets fired by terrorists from within Gaza at the time of the explosion.
Yeah, here we see it again. Yeah, as far as I can see, this car is flipped around. And it's the same car. It's the middle car that is, you just look at the... See, yeah. Oh, well, that was terrible. Let's try to... There we go. Doesn't it look like it's flipped around? Isn't that the wheel thing up here? And right there is the wheels. It's really hard to see, but as far as I can see on this image. And on the other pictures where you see it from the front, it also looks like it's like tipped over. So and you have the explosion around here, something of that nature. So around here is the explosion. So if you could imagine, as far as I can see, if you could imagine that, if you take everything, if you can imagine that the thing that came down might have just been hitting, so it just blows this up, right? So it just, so it flips around, because none of the other cars are on the other side. So this car must have been standing right, and then the thing came and just at least came enough underneath the car so the explosion would, flip it around. That there was enough firepower to just flip it around. So yeah, that's the one that is the worst car in condition. But of course, it's hard to say when you only have images to look at. If you actually were there in the real life, you could further investigate, in regards to it.
The trajectory analysis from the barrage of rockets confirms that the rockets were fired close proximity to the hospital.
That is showing in regards to where there was these multiple rockets fired, and they're firing them in the direction just next to, just incredible, in regards to the direction of the hospital, right? You can see The hospital here. There we go. So that's the hospital, and you can see they are firing the rockets in the direction, just just in the direction of the hospital. And then one misfires in the air, and then it just hits down and explodes. Okay. And then we just we fault Israel for it, right? And it worked. The propaganda worked.
In addition, there are two independent videos which show the failure of the rocket launch and the continuation of rocket flight towards the ground within the Gaza Strip, falling in the hospital compound. Third,
Okay, so it was falling in the hospital compound. Yeah, hospital compound. That was a good word. Hospital compound. There we go. Anyway.
we have intelligence, some that will be shared here, of communication between terrorists talking about rockets misfire.
And I just recall one more call in regards, but I might be wrong on that. But at least we have one call. But I think that was another call as well, but I can't remember. So I might be wrong on that. But I think there was a call in regards of from inside the hospital talking about it, which was like a second witness. But I might be wrong on that. Anyway, I think it's pretty clear what that this was not Israel that was striking the hospital is still there. It was on the whatever they called it, the hospital compound. It wasn't the hospital itself that was hit. So
Firing. The terrorists realize that the rocket has misfired and made specific reference to the Al-Hali al-Ma'dani hospital. I would want to let everybody hear the conversation, and I will do the translation in English. I'm telling you, this is the first time that we see missile like this falling, and so that's why we are saying it belongs to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. What? They are saying it belongs to the PGI. It's from us? It looks like it. Who says this? They are saying the sharpnel from the missile is local sharpnel and not like Israeli sharpnel. What are you saying, Abu Amar? But God bless, it couldn't have been found another place, not the hospital, to explode? Never mind, yes, Abu Raji. They shot it from the cemetery behind the hospital. What? They shot it coming from the cemetery behind Al-Mahadani hospital, and it misfired and fell on them. There's a cemetery behind it? Yes, Al-Mahadani is exactly in the compound. Where is it when you enter the compound? You first enter the compound and don't go towards the city. It's on the right side of Al-Ma'adani Hospital. Yes, I know it. We have cross-checked, intercept with other intelligence sources to confirm this accuracy. It is common for rockets that are fired at Israel to land short and fall inside Gaza. These rockets fall short of Israel and have caused Palestinian casualties. During this war, we have counted approximately 450 rockets that misfired and fell inside Gaza. Palestinian civilians pay the price. I want to show you the footage. These are failed launches during this war until now. These are all failed launches that fell inside
it fell. Anyway, so that's the thing, and yeah. So overall, I think it's absolutely rubbish to believe in the story of Hamas, but it worked. It worked, as this other military guy said. It worked. The propaganda worked, so the damage has been done. All the Mohammedan world is up in the air, right? So it worked.
Syria, and the Persian Gulf have all been targeted by drone and missile strikes. Is this an escalation of the Hamas-Israel conflict? Who is behind it? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. This is a breaking news update on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Let's get into it. Okay, first, you've got a U.S. military base in southern Syria was hit by drones fairly recently. These were, the non-demonetized word is one-way drones, but they are armed explosive drones meant to fly low and under the radar. If you've been following the Ukraine conflict, you know these type of drones are pretty iconic and are very effective at thwarting air defense systems. But in this case, this drone was interdicted by the air defense systems at the base. This is a base with around 900 U.S. troops who are primarily assisting Syrian Democratic Forces in combating the Islamic State. But Syria, as you guys probably know, is a hotbed of just about every faction and interest within the Middle East, operate within Syria and have their own sort of puppet militias that are funded or backed by them, including the United States, right? As we just said, Syrian Democratic Forces, generally U.S. aligned. You have Russian forces that back Assad. You have Hezbollah that broadly backs Assad, but just kind of Hezbollah honestly backs Hezbollah. So there's certainly a lot of opportunity for Iran or Iranian interests to strike U.S. forces. But this is definitely an escalation. This is very rare to see these type of drone attacks against U.S. forces. And even more complicated, in Iraq, 2 U.S. military bases have come under fire in the last 72 hours. One in and around Erbil. This is in Iraqi Kurdistan, right? The Kurds, extremely favorable to the United States, and generally a very...
whatever. Sick and tired of, whatever. It's just, you can use so much time on this bullshit. Yeah. Yeah, it does look like, on this picture, this car is turned over. It must be turned over. The car, you have the wheels there and there and there and there. It must be turned over. But it's the only car that is turned over of the cars. So, and this is a car, isn't it? It is one of these wagon cars, isn't it? Yeah, a wagon car, I think. Small wagon car that you was like. But yeah, this car is turned over. So only one of the cars is turned over. And if you see the line of, it must have been hitting right there and just tipped over the car when it exploded. So the car would have, flipped over because it might have hit it underneath it while it didn't hit underneath the rest of them. So the other cars just tended to, Interesting. Of course, I don't know if they have moved the cars afterwards. I don't think they have. I think the cars are pretty much standing as they were. If we had like a before and after image of the things, that could have been great. Just before it and then afterwards, so you could see the difference in regards to the cars, where they were and where they are moved and so forward. It seems like these 3 cars are like smashed together, but that doesn't really seem to be. And that's interesting. Why would that actually be? How? Because that seems like they then moved in this direction. That would mean that maybe the hit is more like over here, actually. Maybe I'm wrong in regards to the hit being there. Maybe actually the hit is right over there at the it's hard to see, but like these 3 cars are like smashed together, and one of them is like this direction is like it's like being moved into the other cars, it seems. So if you actually follow that line, there seems to maybe be a blast place over there. But then, of course, this car that has been turned upside down would then have come from over. I don't know. It's hard to say. there's a lot of blasted things over here. So maybe the blast area is actually over there, and it moves this car which have been moved into another car, and then that so these three cars have been squeezed together. So this explosion of a car would have been over there and would have been fixed over on its side. That could be maybe. So yeah, so maybe the blast side is actually over there. Again, it's hard to say when you are not there. But these three casters, one of them seems to be like moved into another car, and the other car is seemingly moved into the third car. So all those three cars are like very close to each other. They're like squeezed together as far as I can see. So that's yeah. So this car seems to actually would be standing like it would usually do, the third car, right? That seems to be, how you would park the car, whereas the two others seems to have been pressed, the outer car seems to have, the back side seems to have been knocked into the other car, and the other car seems to then be knocked into the last car that hasn't really moved that much. But the two first cars seem to have moved. And then you have this car that's just totally obliterated in the middle. So yeah, anyway. Who knows? Whatever the case, it doesn't, we have a bigger picture, but again, it's, yeah, and if you zoom in, okay, what was that? That was from, I already have, then it should be this over here. I do see this, but it's hard to really, well, the trees doesn't look so good for sure. If yeah, I guess the hit could have been there, and then it would be. I guess they're pretty lucky in some sense that it's only hit, in middle of nearly nowhere in some sense. We have buildings around, but again, the buildings around hasn't been taking any damage, so really are very, the very little in regards of the roof, so. And we have some more images, burned out cars, people walking around. And they still say that Israel killed 500 people. They blame Israel for 500, Still don't have any images of that. And they would have been in the. Didn't we have like an interview from this guy that I opened up that I haven't seen yet? Let's see here. We have a live stream, I guess, that is still running.
Topics, but the one that was missing, it received a passing mention, was Iran. And that was really the policy change and the focus that should have been the
I don't get this Prime Minister of England. He doesn't even look English, There we go. Piers Morgan versus Hassan Abi. Let's see what that is
played out
about.
through diplomacy and propaganda is being played out online. My next guest has almost 500 million views for his provocative commentary online, making him hugely influential. Hassan Piker streams live under the name Hassan Abi. His analysis of the Israel-Hamas war has taken a highly critical stance towards Israel and Western media, and he's been calling me out for my coverage.
Because he only cares about Israeli citizens. He does not care about Palestinians as human beings. That's why it's apples to oranges. It's like one side is a human, the other side is a barbaric monster child.
I never said that, obviously. He says that he'd like nothing more than to come on to Uncensored and call me a baboon in a suit to my face. Well, here I am, a baboon, and he can join me now. I'm joined by Hassan. Hassan, thank you very much indeed for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Piers. It's very early here in Los Angeles, California, but I'm going to try to do my very best to not do my British accent while I'm here.
Well, I appreciate that. And listen, I appreciate you coming on. Explain to me why you consider me a stenographer for the Israeli government, given that in the last week, I think more than any other host in the world, I have given lengthy platforms to pro-Palestinian voices to articulate that side of the argument.
No, I do have to commend you. You certainly have had more pro-Palestinian voices than the rest of the British media and certainly the rest of Western media in general. Now, as far as saying that you're a stenographer, I said that journalists are not supposed to be stenographers, and yet when it comes down to it, in most circumstances, in whatever conflict we may be in, there are stenographers for whichever party is aligning with the American State Department and the interests of the West in general. And Israel happens to be the one in this ongoing conflict.
But it's interesting that you call me a propagandist, because I want to play you. This was your reaction to when the hospital got
I'm
bombed.
a propagandist.
Well, no,
For the record.
I'm not calling
I'm a
it that.
propagandist.
I'm just saying. I'm going to play you.
I'm saying I am.
Okay, well then, I'm
saying I am.
I just want to put it.
So you're a propagandist, okay, yeah, well.
Play it.
Okay, I'm going to play the clip. This is your reaction to the bombing of the hospital the other night.
Ooh.
While I was in the process of getting ready for the stream, Israel enacted one of the singular worst strikes they have done thus far, and an Israeli airstrike hit the Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza City.
Well, it's nice to know that he actually accepted he is doing propaganda, right? Yeah. That's just incredible.
Where thousands of civilians were seeking medical treatment and shelter from the relentless bombing campaign.
Now, interestingly, when you were saying that, I was coming on air too, and I took a position based probably on 30 years of being a journalist, running major newspapers, working at CNN and others, of waiting, of just saying, I think we should just wait and see what has actually happened here, get clarification, see who's actually to blame before we start passing judgment. You raced in to assume, as many people did, by the way, including the New York Times, BBC, mainstream media, and of course most of the Arab world then followed, that this was clearly, indisputably, an Israeli airstrike on this hospital. And yet all the evidence now suggests very strongly.
As far as I know, Fox News also was like on the, what do you call it, the good side of this, and didn't take too fast of as far as I know. But anyway.
That it wasn't. That in fact, this
but actually,
was a rocket that misfired coming.
You could really take all the news stations that promoted this bullshit and didn't wait for further confirmation and just throw them out pretty much. They should have known better. And clearly they just promoted a lot of propaganda.
From a terrorist group inside Gaza. So my question for you is this.
Oh, what did you say? Let's let it go.
Very strongly that it wasn't. That in fact, this was a rocket that misfired coming from a terrorist group inside Gaza. So my question for you...
says he wouldn't go that far. Okay. Let's take a little back and try
people
again.
Did, by the way, including the New York Times, BBC, mainstream media, and of course most of the Arab world then followed, that this was clearly, indisputably, an Israeli airstrike on this hospital. And yet all the evidence now suggests very strongly that it wasn't. That in fact, this was a rocket that misfired coming from a terrorist group inside Gaza. So my question for you is this: Why would you? I wouldn't go that far. Why would you be so certain in what you said before you knew?
Okay, so
first and foremost, before we get started on this conversation, let's understand something very important here. There's no electricity in Gaza. Internet is patchy in Gaza. There's no food in Gaza. There's no water in Gaza. This is all by design.
Could we answer the question instead of, all these,
This is because Gaza is under a brutal blockade, a brutal occupation by the Israeli government. Okay? So that plays a role in the fog of war and misinformation that gets spread. Having said that, however, you made it seem as though there is a certainty that this was 100% not an Israeli airstrike.
No, I didn't.
And instead,
I literally just said it's not a certainty.
Okay, sorry.
I said the evidence is increasingly pointing to this not being an Israeli airstrike. And that is expert evidence from people who have no skin in the game at all.
Yes. Well, I don't know which expert you're talking about, because I think Channel 4 did a pretty good job. As a matter of fact, I would say Channel 4 did probably the best job so far in analyzing everything that the IDF has said. But the reason why I believed, and I still do believe, that the likelihood is that this was an Israeli bombing campaign wasn't only because of the singular verifiable video, the phone video from the balcony that had all of the markings of an airstrike, the fact that the Israeli Air Force was enacting a bombing campaign in the region at the time, according to the Al Jazeera live streaming footage that everyone is using but doesn't understand, the fact that the digital media person for the IDF immediately came out and said that this was actually an airstrike that hit a Hamas target, and that he was sad that there were, casualties at the end of the day. But this, the digital media person in the region at the time, according to the Al Jazeera live streaming footage that everyone is using but doesn't understand, the fact that the likelihood is that this was an Israeli bombing campaign wasn't only because of the singular verifiable video, the phone video from the balcony that had all of the markings of an airstrike, the fact that the Israeli Air Force was enacting a bombing campaign in the region at the time, according to the Al Jazeera live streaming footage that everyone is using but doesn't understand, the fact that the digital media person for the IDF immediately came out and said that this was actually an airstrike that hit a Hamas target, and that he was sad that there were, casualties at the end of the day. But this but doesn't understand the fact that the digital media person for the IDF immediately came out and said that this was actually an airstrike that hit a Hamas target, and that he was sad that there were,
What?
The IDF immediately came out and said that this was actually an airstrike that hit a Hamas target, and that he was sad that there were, casualties at the end of the day. But this
can we see that evidence?
And said that this was
That's right.
the fact that the digital media person for the IDF immediately came out and said that this was actually an airstrike that hit a Hamas target, and that he was sad that there were, casualties at the end of the day. But this was a Hamas target, and celebrated it. And more importantly, I guess, the fact that this hospital had been bombed by Israel. This hospital
It's still not the hospital itself, okay? It's the car park,
had been bombed by Israel on Saturday. 22 hospitals have, as a matter of fact, been bombed by Israel since this last saga in the occupation. And this hospital had been bombed directly by Israel, where the cancer ward was destroyed. Israel has been bombing all of these hospitals. Israel has been calling all of these hospitals to evacuate over and over and over again. The medical professionals at the hospital had been called by the Israeli government the day prior, and everyone on the ground assumes that this is an Israeli airstrike. They are the ones who experienced the situation. So when you have every single, can I just finish this?
If you watch the BBC account of all this last night, by their Verify unit, which was specifically set up by the BBC to be completely dispassionate in these investigations. And they reached a pretty clear conclusion, based on circumstantial evidence, I'll make that clear, that this would not have been an Israeli airstrike, including, for example, the size of the crater, which bears no relation to the size of craters normally left by Israeli. So, look, my point is, neither of us know for sure. But you took to your airwaves immediately because actually I wouldn't even say unconscious bias, your admitted propagandist bias on your part was that you wanted that to be an Israeli airstrike. It suited your narrative. And I would say that in itself, in its way,
wanted it to be an
being
Israeli
a stenographer. Well, you accuse me of being a stenographer. I try and be fair and get to the truth. In your case, I don't think you try to do that. I think you appeal to your audience, appeal to your base, and you don't really care whether the facts are there or not.
This is entirely unfair, because you just said circumstantial evidence favors that this was not an Israeli airstrike. I gave you all of the circumstantial evidence that it does favor that this is an Israeli airstrike. The reason why, however, circumstantial evidence is not enough. And the one thing that I will concede to, because when more information did come out, and no, I do not mean when Israel said that they did not bomb this hospital and it was actually Hamas, and then they turned around and went, never mind, it's not Hamas, it's actually Islamic Jihad. And then they said, we have more evidence coming out in a couple hours. And then the evidence came out, and it turns out it sounded like the phone conversations that they were able to intercept, supposedly, sounded like, by experts at the very least, to be completely false and completely made up.
Yeah, but Hassan, I don't think. Listen, in all honesty, I don't think even as you're saying all this, I think you're a smart guy.
Let me finish.
I think you've looked at all of this, and I think in your heart, you know this was probably not an Israeli airstrike. And I'm just curious why you would, instead of admitting that as facts change,
that is not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying at all.
I don't understand why you would double and treble down when the evidence is pointing the other way.
You're asking me to be on your show. Do you want to talk?
Yes.
If you're asking me to be on your show, and I want to be on the show, thank you so much for having me on your show. Let me explain exactly what I said, and let me explain to you why I think still, to this very moment, until there is a third-party investigation that is concluded by the UN, the International Criminal Court, or specifically a forensic analyst that looks at the situation, is allowed to be on the ground. This is not just my perspective. This is B'Tselem as well, which is an Israeli organization that has also demanded a third-party investigation occur. I am not going to conclusively say that this was not Israel's fault. Why? Because I just gave you, and not because I'm a propagandist. As far as me being a propagandist goes, everyone is a propagandist. I'm just honest about it. You're a propagandist. We have our biases.
Curious who you think I'm a propagandist for.
Honest about my biases.
Who do you think I'm a propagandist for?
For Israel.
Who do I think you're a propagandist for? Whichever every media person is doing propaganda.
But who for? I've got to be doing it with somebody.
You think it's a bad word? I don't. That's just the difference. This is a semantics
I do. I think it's actually quite a serious charge. Hassan, I think it's a serious charge to level, not on a podcaster, but as a journalist who's broadcasting around the world, who has a reputation, I believe, for being fair and impartial, actually, on these issues. It's quite a charge to just say, I'm a stenographer of the Israeli government, or I'm a propagandist. I don't think there's any evidence that I'm either of those things. I'm curious who you think I'm doing
While
the
we're having
propaganda
this conversation, 3,000, Piers, while we're having this back and forth, 3,840 Palestinians have been ruthlessly slaughtered in the last incursion into Gaza. I feel like this is an incredibly selfish, self-centered conversation to have. You asked me to be on here. You wanted to hear my perspective. I'm willing to give it to you. I don't want to talk about I don't want to talk about Noam Chomsky style manufacturing consent conversations about how the media is operating in the behest of capital.
You were the guy. Listen, you were the guy that called me.
There are dead people.
Listen, Hassan, I only asked you because you're the guy that called me a propagandist and called me a baboon in a suit. I was curious as to why. You don't want to say who I'm doing the propaganda for. We'll move on. I agree with you. There's a bigger picture here. Let's move on. Let's take a short break. Hassan, let's take a short break. I want to come back. I want to talk to you about what happened on October the 7th, get your reaction to that.
Okay.
Welcome back. Hassan Piker is still with me. Hassan, I want to just play you a clip of something that you said about the October 7th terror attacks, and in particular, the attack at the music festival, which killed 260 people.
Look at this guy. You know what shouldn't happen? Killing 260 people at a music festival. No, you're right, man. That just happened on its own because, bad guys wanted to do bad things. You're right. Dude, if they subjugated you to a open-air prison your whole life, you're going to break out eventually when you realize that there's no other way to get out of it.
I mean, it sounds to me there, Hassan, that you are in some way saying they had it coming. Were you?
No, I wouldn't say that they had it coming. I think that Michael Brooks used to say, analysis is not justification. And while obviously civilian casualties and horrific barbaric acts that were committed on October 7th are completely unacceptable, the important thing to make sure that it never happens again is to analyze what are the conditions as to how it happened to begin with. And I think Ehud Barak is going to be on in a little bit as well, or maybe he's on before me. And I'm almost certain that while he has held the keys to the conversation and held the levers of the power in this conversation in many key and critical points, I would go so far as to say that he is among many others who also recognize that the Bibi Netanyahu administration is responsible. This is not just my assessment. This is 85% of the Israeli population's assessment at the time. This is years and years and years of refusing to negotiate with the Palestinian Authority. Don't take my word for it. Take
listen, I would agree.
personal
Listen,
word for it.
I would agree
2019,
again.
in a closed-door conversation with Likud members, he said
listen.
that if you want to thwart any kind of Palestinian nation state, you must do everything you can to only negotiate with Hamas. We control how high the fire goes. He has given cash to Hamas by way of Qatar. There is no bigger fan of Hamas than Bibi Netanyahu, which I hope one day you can maybe interview, and then you'll ask him to.
No, I actually did interview him a few months ago, and I did actually spell out to him that there have been a lot more Palestinian deaths this year so far, up to the point of the interview, than Israelis, and what he intended to do about it. He said then he didn't believe in collective responsibility, which is now this hot phrase in this whole crisis about whether you would hold all people in Gaza responsible for Hamas. Interesting to see if when they...
Can I ask you a
let
question?
me just finish my point. If they do then launch a ground invasion, it'd be interesting to see if they keep to that word. You know, I'm not a defender of what Bibi Netanyahu has been doing in Israel. In the last year, his attack on the credibility and integrity of the Supreme Court, I think, has been a disgrace, and I think it has fractured society in Israel. I also think that it's caused so much social unrest and had such big protests that you could argue has taken the eye off the ball of the people who should have been defending the border, because they've been trying to sort out what's been going on domestically, internally inside Israel. So I think it's a catastrophic failure of intelligence, of security, of defense, all of those things. I'll be amazed, frankly, if Netanyahu survives this. So I'm certainly not here to defend him, even if you do view me as a stenographer for his government. My question for you, I think, is this, is that I've had a lot of problems trying to get people on the pro-Palestinian side to separate two things. That you can say, as I believe and you believe, that the Palestinians have been maltreated for decades. That the situation where they are effectively... I mean, I don't even call it an occupation because Israelis aren't in Gaza. They pulled out in 2005, but they still control the ability of Gaza.
This is why I call you propagandist.
I'm just saying the phraseology is confusing to me because the reality is Israel exercises control over people in Gaza. It allows them in and out. It allows them to turn on the tap of water and so on and so on. I get all that. They don't actually live there because they can't live side by side with each other.
That's why it's called an open-air prison.
Right, I don't disagree.
That's why they call it the world's largest open-air prison.
But Hassan, I don't disagree with you, and I have pointed this out for a long time as a journalist. So we don't disagree about the appalling plight of Palestinian people. But the issue comes that if you can't separate that ongoing dispute between Israel and Palestine from the absolutely appalling barbarism